Alive.
Good evening and welcome to Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. Today's date is Thursday, August 27th, and it is 6 p.m. The chair calls this meeting to order. Item 1, roll call. Let the minutes reflect that all 5 members are present for this meeting. Item 2, invocation pledge of allegiance. I would ask that Mr. Brogan would do the invocation and lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we just thank you for giving us another day. We're truly thankful for our health and strength we have to go about our daily tasks. Father, we thank you so much for all the different areas of participation we have in the Summers County school system. We just pray, God, a special blessing for each one as we go through these trying times. Lord, we just pray that you go with us through this meeting, help us to make the best decisions for the betterment of the county. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is approval of agenda adjustments. We have, if you notice, members, on item 6, presentation, Superintendent Orville and Sam Kelball.
Very close.
Say that for me and I'll get it right.
I tell people just think of it like C-A-L-L, B-A-L-L.
Okay.
You did very well.
Okay. It has, with Viola, has a presentation to make. And because he's traveling, the chair would move that we take item 6 presentations and consider it first on our agenda. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor by the chair, second by Mr. Angel, that we move item 6 presentations from Viola up to the first item of considered business. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. The ayes have it. 5 votes in the affirmative. Members, is there anything else any of you would like to make an adjustment on?
I move the motion that we approve the agenda with the aforementioned adjustment.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board accept and approve the agenda with the adjustment as presented to us by Superintendent Orville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. The ayes have it. 5-0 vote. So at this time, then, we will have a presentation from Superintendent Orville. You may make your opening remarks and introductions.
I'll hold off to my presentation for later because we got a list of stuff we need to go through. What I will yield to Sam here with Neola. I was introduced to Neola back in 2007 as a principal in Ohio. When I came to this state, I saw that Neola worked here with other counties as a RESA director. And so I contacted Sam because one of the findings was our board policies need updated. We'll just put it that way. And so Sam and the company he works with, Neola, will give you an update on what they could offer Summers County. Please ask him all the questions you need, because as we move forward, we're going to have to make some decision on how we want to update our policies. The State Board of Education said that they could possibly help with this, but that'll take a little bit longer time. You also have companies out there like Neola that can do the business, and then you also have attorneys that can do it. But I want to give you guys all the options, discern that data, and then come up with a plan of action, because we need to update our policies. And they're so outdated that it's not a big rush, but we need to do this as quickly as possible this school year. But I'd like to turn it over to Sam here to go through his presentation, and please pepper him with a lot of questions.
I would like to say for the public and everyone here and the members, this is a directive from the State Board that we update our policies, that have complete review, that be updated. And so that is what brought forth this need to have Sam here, and we'll be having other presentations as we look for someone to handle the updating of our policies. Sam, you have it.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to meet each one of you, and I'm hoping back many, many times. I appreciate the invitation, and I am extremely happy that I'm no longer a superintendent with COVID. And with that, I certainly would like for you to have the best possible year you can under very difficult circumstances. We know this year is going to be full of change and some controversy and issues that does not make anyone's job pleasant. So I wish you the best. You know the major role of the board is set board policy. It's do basically two things: set board policy, hire the superintendent. And I don't know of a board member, a superintendent who doesn't feel that updated legal policies are not prudent. Everybody wants them. However, when we find out that most manuals are outdated, they're not organized very well, and they're difficult to use. And in spite of that, so why is that? Well, we find out the major reason is time. It takes a long time to sit down and write a policy. Make sure you do all the legal search and that type of thing. Prosecuting attorneys are generally too busy to help the school board, and they don't really have expertise in education necessarily. So it is time consuming. It's kind of boring. No one wants to do it. It's oftentimes doesn't have top priority. So it's really all those things lead to policy manuals getting outdated. The prospect of updating policy manuals is a daunting one, because everyone knows how difficult it is and how long it takes. One, it can be expensive, takes a lot of time, and takes expertise. So that's the reason that the company I work for came in existence over 40 years ago. We recognized that school districts could not keep up with policy manuals. So we've been working with districts ever since. Today, we have over 1,500 clients in 6 states. We work in Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Florida, and West Virginia. In West Virginia, we have 26 clients out of the 55 districts. And in your folders, you'll see a list of those and also a map of the areas that we cover. The thing I guess I'd like to emphasize is that what we do is we have no knowledge of anyone else offering the services we offer. In your packet, I'll go through this a little bit, but there's a list of the services that we provide. What we do is we have over 400 policy templates already developed, already reviewed and vetted by an attorney. In some cases, many attorneys, particularly if it's a federal policy. So we do that for our policies. Administrative guidelines or documents that put your policies into practice. That's what the superintendent interprets the policy that you said means. That's how he or she wants it done. We also vet those. We also provide forms. A lot of people don't think about vetting them with an attorney. We vet those. Some misuse or a bad form can also cause you to difficulties. Ask the wrong question on the interview. There's certain areas you shouldn't be in. So you have to be careful with forms. So we vet all of those. We also, when we give you that, we provide you a warranty that if you use our policy or administrative guidelines or forms, and if it's some type of difficulty because you were following our policy, we'll support you legally up to a little over $9,000. Now, if you use your own language, we don't guarantee that. but we will certainly guarantee our language. If you follow along in your sheet there on our services, in every state, as I mentioned, we vet the policy. Now, in this state right now, we're using Dinsmore and Shoal. Some of you may know Jason Long or Denise Thaddepool. Dinsmore and Shoal is also a multi-state, large legal company. So we use them. So everything we develop, we might have it in compliance with federal law, but we want to make sure that we have an attorney here in West Virginia that vets it says this is legal. So we do that. Another thing we do is once we work with your district, I would come in and spend 25 hours on this process, face-to-face time. You sign a contract with us, and we get the contract in our office. Within a few days, we'll download all of our policy templates to something that looks almost exactly like that. And then I'll work with the district. We work with you on setting up committees you want to use, provide you the templates. Then I'll come in and work with you on the templates, and then fill them out and make your choices. Now, this policy manual, I want to emphasize, has to be for Summers County. Even though we work in a lot of counties, all of our policies are different because we have so many options in our policies. People select different options, so district is different from one district to the other. I think that's real important. Then the other thing we do is that just updating your policy one time, someone walks away, in a year you're already behind. So what we do, we provide an update service. We come in twice a year, issue a bunch of updates, and most of my updates right now have been averaging around 40 policies each update, which changes or new policies. We do that twice a year. We charge $1,325 for the update service. Some people say, well, how do you do it so cheaply? Because that's a lot of policies, a lot of vetting. But what we're able to do is we're able to spread that cost out. We incur the cost with the attorney, but we're able to then spread that out to all the districts. So if every district is going in and having that done for them, you're going to invest a ton of money. I know we invested we write the policies, but just vetting the policies, we invested over $2 million here in West Virginia. So it's expensive. Attorneys do not come cheaply. So that's kind of what we do, so we put the cost down. Just check my notes on services and make sure I didn't forget to mention anything. Oh, the other thing I did forget to mention is that a couple things. One, we do all your processing. So when I sit down with districts and you make your choices, then we load it on this, inform our office that this material needs processed. So we process all the materials. So once you make a change, we process it and give it back to you. If you need to make multiple changes, we'll do the same process. Make a change, send it to us on that website, and we'll make changes. Lastly, I mentioned my opening that, of course, that oftentimes policy manuals are difficult to use. And so that's the reason we put everything on a website with a great search engine. So this search engine right here, you can type any word and it'll bring up every policy, administrative guideline, form dealing with that. So if I type in field trips, it's going to bring up all the policies, forms, and administrative guidelines. So what I'm trying to convey to you is that we're kind of a full service company. We get you updated. obviously it's going to take time for committees and people to go through their templates. We recognize that. But just to give you an idea, Neola templates, I go to active. I can hit on any one of these. Anybody want administration? Anyone want to suggest one we do? Professional personnel. Then there's a whole list of all the policies we have on professional personnel. So, when we want them, that brings the policy up. Let me go down to give you an idea on the choices. Let's go to 2000 and 20 through 30. Oops. The usage is. Whoops. I'm in trouble with it.
If it's easier, Sam, Ken's behind you, he can drive for you.
All right.
If that helps you.
Let's click on this one. You're going to find there's some policies in here just straightforward. The state law, bam, there it is. Other things, we try to give you a lot of choices. For example, field trip, extracurricular trips. Any place you would see a parentheses, that means that they can look at it, put an X there, and we do that using track changes. Just makes it a different color so that when our processors get this, they can process it quickly. Then we go on down here, more choices. Again, more choices. That's the reason all of our policy manuals, better take over again, they're too large. That's the reason all of our policy manuals are never the same, because you have a lot of choices. So we're trying to do all this background work, develop these templates, give you plenty of options so that the policy manual works for you. So with that, I don't know there's much more I can add other than emphasize that there's no one that does what we do. So update twice a year assures you, should give you great comfort that your policy manual is legal and up to date. Questions?
When you begin developing policies for a system, do you do the entire manual before you start rolling some of them out? Or do you roll out some of the crucial ones they need early?
Well, that's a good question. One time we definitely rolled them out all at one time. We made sure the board members got them in plenty of time, like reading my section, and then adopt them. With our new platform we're using, and Board Docs built this platform at our request, we can now do some things individually improve. And often get that question that you've got some policies that need to be done right now, urgent, and we can do that. We can go ahead and get that done. You approve it, and then we can get it from this. I'm working right now with Jefferson County. Jefferson County wanted personnel policies on the board right away. So we did section 3 and 4,000 with them and got them up and running. So the answer to that is yes, we can do it. My questions?
You said 1325 for the updates twice a year. Is that going to be 2650 or just the 1325?
2650, and then the other cost is for maintaining a website and rental would charge $650. So we're about a little over $3,000 a year. We keep you updated twice a year, and we put out a lot of special updates, and that costs me nothing. So if I go to updates here, And you go to policy update. Here we go. Here's 2020. We put out a COVID policy, special update. We put a Title IX that was urgent to get done. We said they were supposed to be approved with the board by the 14th of August, so we put that out. And there's a regular volume 12 number 1. That means we've been doing it 12 years, and the 1 is the first one of the year. 12-2 is the second one of the year. And we just put out a supplemental update. Now, we got those supplemental special updates, we don't charge. Even though on the COVID, and particularly Title IX, we invested a heck of a lot of money with attorneys in Washington, D.C. and other attorneys to get that what we felt was compliant. That requires a lot of training. I'm sure your people have already begun training in Title IX.
Did I understand you say that if we were to go with you, Neola would create a policy website for Summers County?
Yes.
And I guess then people who would go to Summers County Board website, there would be a link there that they could click on and they're taken directly to your website.
Yes, that's correct.
And does Neola, as a company, do they have company lawyers that work on these? In other words, or do you just deal with retainers of law firms in the different states you work in?
Well, we have one in-house attorney. For the most part, we write, Neola itself is made up of mostly former superintendents and sometimes the board attorneys. We write the policies generally ourselves, generally, not always. And then we run it by attorneys in Ohio first. And then we take that language and run it by West Virginia attorney or Michigan attorney, whoever it was. So oftentimes multiple attorneys look at every one of those. But yeah, we just have one in-house attorney.
So that way there's somewhere that's up with their position.
Well, not really. I mean, we really, what we put out there, we back. We had difficulty with the warranty. And we have a problem, we'll certainly try to take care of the problem.
Okay, so there's the cost for the twice yearly maintaining. There's the cost for the website. What is the cost to initially go in?
Did you get that? Grace?
Here at 16.9,
What the superintendent announced, and what the superintendent asked me is it possible just to do the policy and not to do the administrative guidelines form? And the answer is yes. And I think he should have been set a contract or agreement. It's not a contract, but an agreement. And I think, so he reasons don't quote me, but just to do the policies, it's around 19,000. Of course, that will be spread. Is that what that's it?
It has you have two options there.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
I think that's exactly it. But I'll double check that. But I think for the policy itself, it's around 19,000. The reason I know that, we just did that for the district. So we can do that, or we can do either administrative guidelines and forms for 30,500. No matter when you do that, it will end up being spread over 2 fiscal years. So, for example, if a month this board would approve it, then we'll start charging money, I think, on about a quarterly basis. So that's going to go over into the next fiscal year. It's just the way it works out. But it's hard. It's difficult to when someone comes in and offers you a price to do your policy. The questions come up is, what exactly are you doing? How many policies? Which policies? And how much you charge? When can you get started? Those are all the questions asked because we know that we offer you over 400 templates. You don't need to take all of them, won't take all of them, but they're there. And we know that once you sign a contract, we get that contract, we can start from day one and get it finished. Someone's not sitting around trying to write up a bunch of policies. Okay?
Superintendent Warble, do you have any questions you want to address?
No, other than the fact that, let's say for argument's sake, we go with Neola, and the board approves that next month or the month after that. With us not having our policies, some have not been updated since 74-ish. To some haven't been touched in the last decade. Do you have I know this is a ballpark and I hate to put you on the spot, so sorry about this. I've
That's
worked
all right.
with you long enough, you know how I am. What would be a reasonable ballpark figure for us to get everything, and don't worry about the forms I'm talking about and the guidelines, just getting all our policies up to date?
30,500.
But how soon will that be done?
Well, it's
With that 30,500, I know it's a ballpark. I'm sorry to do that to you.
it depends on. I can tell you where they get bogged down. We won't bog you down. In other words, we've already moved quickly and efficiently. So we put those templates out there. I used to suggest to you that the county and district needs to create so many different committees. Generally, a committee around those sections. So we got the finance section. Obviously, you want the treasurer and maybe some people work in the office and whoever else wants to serve on that. So they have those templates. We do an orientation session, tell them how to do that using track changes and turn loose. So what I recommend is that the board and superintendent really set a calendar. And we'll give you a sample calendar as to when you want it done. So what happens if you would want that done by next July 1st, then we back up from that a little bit and say, right, at this point in time, this needs to be done or that needs to be done. What that does, that brings it to the forefront, and it gets done because personnel know the board and the superintendent has set a deadline, and that's what we do.
And that includes your 20-some hours within that year too?
Yes,
20-some.
25 hours.
So 25 hours in that fiscal year is what you would dedicate towards us, something like that?
Well, I don't want, yes.
If we go with that 30,000.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did 25 hours for the policies, another 25 for administrative guidelines and forms.
Okay.
So there's a total of 50 hours in that total price. I'll work with you. Most people want to know how quickly you can do it. And in Morgan County, we did it, the total package in about 4 months. Now, most average are well over that. I got one district on here, had the policies for 10 or 15 years and started. Most of these counties that we're talking about up here are all in different areas. Some are been finished, and completely finished, and keep them up to date real well. One county has not started. Some are in different phases of doing the work. But we can do it quickly. Where it gets bogged down is if someone does not hold the staff accountable, and I need a good contact person to work with that keeps me up to date, then hold them accountable. Or obviously, when it gets to the board, you can deliberate, and slow it down there. So that's the two areas that usually slows the process down. Of course, we recognize that personnel already have their plates full, but we need a little bit of time to get your policy manual updated. We'll get it updated, and we'll keep it updated. So for twice a year, I'm going to send you an update and meet with you 2 or 3 hours. Then you process, tell me what you want, you process it, and put it on the website.
One thing that bogs us down a whole lot is when they go out on review. Sure. We'll get feedback, do a little tweak, put it back for review. I mean, you said some people have done it for 4 months. We've had things on review for close to that long.
Yeah, it can happen.
Mr. Warble, do you have any research from what it normally costs us on attorney fees to redo a policy?
From what I understand, since we have worked in the past with Dinsmore and also Bowles Rice, when you look at attorney fee, it can be $250 to $500 an hour depending on what kind of policy you're looking at. Because like personnel policy, that'll probably be closer to $500 an hour because it's just going to take longer. That's the one that usually falls you down as personnel.
Our experience is that most attorneys are charging $400 to $600.
Yeah, that's why I shot for 5 because I think to be conservative but yet realistic.
That's not per policy, that's just per hour.
We always have to give this. We don't have a lady here. She already knows. Money's very tight.
And we're all former educators, we all recognize that, that money is tight. And so we do everything we can to keep the costs down as much as we can.
Well, although the board would need to be careful, deliberate on the policies, I would suspect that shouldn't be quite the monumental task one might first think, because I would think your templates are pretty much rooted, many of those policies are rooted in statutes and laws that the attorneys have said grace over. Is that not correct?
Yes, and I was going to mention that point that I tell boards is you should feel relatively comfortable when you get them. First of all, we've vetted all of them. Now they've gone through the experts in your office. So the nutrition director is going through the food service policies. So when you get them, you know your staff is going through them and they're vetted with an attorney. So there shouldn't be too much concern with our legal lines. A very good point. That's what I tell boards when they start getting involved now.
Do any other members have any questions or anything you'd like to address to say? Okay. We appreciate you making the presentation tonight. Thank you very much. Don't be offended that we moved you up. We wanted to do that. So you're welcome to stay.
Well,
You're also welcome to leave. We won't think any less of it.
Well, as I told you before, when I go to board meetings, I usually feel like it's not very manly to be set and run. And I usually stay with the whole meeting, but I'll make it out here a little early tonight because of getting back to Louisville. Working in Greenbrier and Western County tomorrow.
We understand.
So I appreciate that. And I appreciate your questions. And most importantly, I appreciate your time. And I'll make sure that I get that exact price on just doing the policies.
Yeah.
I thought that you had been sent that.
Yeah.
But I think it's around 19, but I'll make sure you report it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
sir.
Appreciate you.
Well,
Don't forget to tell Neola we'd like a good guy discount before they send that final number.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You always gotta work it, you know? You do have nice pens, though. I've been telling everybody that. The pens are great.
Better service is better.
Yeah, but yeah, there you go. I like that. It's a good slogan. But thank you for your time. You're welcome.
At this time, we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is approval of minutes. Are you finished, Mr. Ford?
He's done. You can get me after you do this. If you want to go back to
No,
follow.
we'll go ahead since we're on this. You want to go ahead now? It's your call.
You're the boss. You run it how you want, man.
May I mention one more thing?
I'm a good
Sure.
guy. Thank you.
You got my card here. If you have a question, don't hesitate to call me anytime. Thanks.
He will pick up the phone. He's pretty good about that.
Mr. Warble, why don't you go ahead since we're on this subject, go ahead and do what you want to do with this. And then we'll move
Superintendent
on.
report?
We'll move on to that.
Okay. There's just a few things you should have at your fingertips. And Mr. Duncan and I went to the state board meeting, and West Virginia Department of Ed came here a few months ago, and it should be Mr. McBride's one right in front of you there. Yeah. It's a nice little booklet that the State Department put together. They came here a couple months ago and questioned people who worked in the county, and I think they walked through some things with you all. And then they also went through the policies. And so one of the findings is, like Mr. Duncan said earlier, is findings of policies. But basically, everything that's in that booklet is what the findings are. At this point in time, Mr. Duncan and I went, and we were able to speak to the State Board of Education. They allowed us to go in executive session and ask us questions. We answered them. We came out and they answered asked more questions publicly. I think they just wanted to make sure everything was done thoroughly as they did their investigation. Investigation can sometimes be a strong word, like something was wrong. But anytime you have someone come into your county and they do a snapshot of anything, some things are probably straight up, that's pretty much it. And some things could be a little bit, well, it was just that day. You know, if I go to your house one day, you could be having a great day or a bad day. And that's the findings of that day. But as they investigate and question some things, there was some things there that they have to note, and they printed that. It's for you all to thumb through, but at the same time, my job is to work with you all with those findings and have an action plan. So I spoke to some people at the state yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? These 2 days are blending in quick. With talking to them about an action plan and how we're going to make sure things are followed through. So for example, policy 8200 was not kept up with the policy in this county because the central office was making purchases that got out of order. You get quotes and bids, you get a purchase requisition, you order, and you get a bill. Well, sometimes the bills came in before all that other stuff did. Well, that's going to be a finding. I don't care who you are. In any business, that's a no-no. And so we did a in-service in this room with Amy Willard and her staff over policy 8200. Most of the people that are sitting behind me were in that meeting, and they signed off that they understood that policy. So now we're going to do it in the correct order. That way, that won't be a finding again. Having said all that, that's just one of many issues. Two is him being here today talking about policies and whoever else we get in here, because we got to clean up our policies. The other findings deal with the Board of Education. I want you guys to look at that, because from my point of view and working with Mr. Duncan, there's things in there that it's not to name, shame, or blame. Just own the data and let's learn from it and move on, because we don't have time to look at the past anymore. There's no future in it. So let's learn and move forward. I mean, honestly, guys, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Duncan, I had to say, was a good guy that day. He took one for the team and listened. And then we came home together and we said, we're going to make a plan and we're going to suck it up and move forward. And basically, that's what I got from that presentation. I will yield to Mr. Duncan if he has his 2 cents worth, but do be careful. We're moving forward, big guy.
There's our purchasing policy.
Oh, thank you, sir.
It's much longer than it looks.
I don't know if you have anything else to add, Mr. Duncan, that I might have missed.
Both of us were asked a lot of questions. And one of the things that's coming out of this is that we're giving them certain action plans, things that we are doing to correct certain findings. They are going to come back and touch base with us here in the office in 6 months. And to see how the action plan is working and to look to see how procedures have been created. Policies was a big item here. And it's a directive from them. We don't want to absolutely run it, but if you look at our policies, the first one did our policy for serious need of review. And that's all we'll say about that. We're following the state's directive. We're going to get that done. We don't have a choice on it, but we shouldn't look at it as we don't have a choice on it because of the directive. They need to be done. They need to be done so that as we proceed with daily business, we have a guidebook to go by that keeps us on the straight and narrow. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, to add to that, you have to see that each board is a steward at the time of when they were board members. years, and this wasn't your fault, but it's your problem. If you go back to 1973 or 4, none of your board members, and I'm not saying they're to blame either. It's just some things just don't get
I'll
addressed.
give you some perspective on that.
Were you student
1973,
teacher?
I was 20 years old. I was doing my student teaching at Superintendent High School. And so a lot of those policies have not been touched since then. And the student of mine was just kidding. Not overgrown. But anyway, so I guess from that aspect, anything else? What do you think we do?
No, I think the biggest thing I took away from it comes down to one word, guys. It's all about communication. And what I'm going to tell you right now is you hired me to help out with that. And I can tell you the team that I have come on to here in this building, the central office staff, has done nothing but work with me and understand that we're going to work together with you all because we're all a team right now. And that's all I have to say about it. We're a team all on the same page. We can disagree, but at this point in time, it's just a gut check. We're in it together. We will disagree, but we should have fun with those disagreements and learn from one another and move forward. So I can tell you the central office staff and I are just, we're definitely ready to move forward with all the things that have been asked of us. And nobody is mandating anything and nobody's wanting to do a state takeover. Having said that, if we don't take care of business, that is an option. And I don't like that option any more than you all do. So I can tell you, Mr. Duncan is a passionate man. He did a great job of biting his tongue and working with that. And I got to give him credit on that. And that needs to be publicly noticed that you sucked it up for the team. And I appreciate you doing that. We'll leave it on that.
Well, yes, there's some other things that I think that I just occurred to me, I think we need to address.
Okay.
One, for the board members and for the public, we have no problem on communication. Communication is free flowing. It's on a two-way street. And that certainly helps us go forward as a unified team. In addition to that, one of the things that the state board wanted to know, they asked point-blank question to me, and there's about 15 people that wrote. And they wanted to know what the board, in conjunction with the superintendent, was going to do in order to involve our community more, communicate more with our community, and establish trust within the community from the Summers County Board and the Summers County School System. And there were several things we pointed out, and Dave, you can help me if I forget them, but one of them I said was several board members were attending meetings with teachers. When Mr. Ward was having meetings, I know Mr. Angel, you did one day, I did one day. I can tell you the state board liked that. One of the things we told them is that in working with public broadcasting and radio, that we'll be doing a series once it releases in code. We'll be doing a series of community service announcements from the Board of Education and things we're doing and updates we're making in the program. They really liked that. We also expressed to them the fact that we were going to be doing open houses where we were inviting and really pushing to get parents into the schools so that we can explain to them how this school system is going to work with this crisis and what we're trying to do. And they really appreciate that. You do think there were some, I don't know, there's other things. We did tell them we had an action plan we'd already started and that we would be prepared to welcome them back in 6 months. Anything else?
Yeah, if you guys look at your agenda, the other thing that we work with the state board on is if you look at number 7, number 8, and number 9. Number 7, number 8, and number 9 deal with number 7 for those who aren't here or in the audience. 7 is student success stories. We'd like to honor those students for doing a great job in the school system, not just sports or band, but academic achievements. We need to do more celebrations. Number 8 talks about instructional initiatives. We have some teachers here that you need to know what good things are going on in the classroom. And you need to hear that from our teachers. And I want them to be able to talk to you because one thing with communication sometimes is I think educators have a hard time knowing the chain of command. But if you bring them in in a forum like this, they feel more comfortable talking and answering questions because it's what they're doing in the classroom. That's great. Why don't we talk about that? I think you need to hear that because most people that are board members don't get a call because all the great things are happening. And you need to hear great things. And then number 9 is community volunteerism. And we're going to start next board meeting with telling you all the people who have helped volunteer so far to get ready for September 8th. And there are so many people, I can't name them right now, but I can tell you right now that we do have a lot of names that we're collecting, and I think we need to bring them into this room to celebrate that as well. So we need to communicate with people that we appreciate all that they're doing. So we want to work on that aspect as a board and a superintendent and a central office, that we're celebrating what good things are going on in the school system. Not always the policy and the bills and negative stuff, but also what's going on well. So Mr. Duncan and I worked together on 7, 8, 9 to interject that tonight, not do anything about it, but let you all know that this is another way to show the State Department that we're working well together within the community we serve. Does that make sense, Mr. Duncan?
It did. We decided, based upon their directives and their queries about what we were going to do, that these 3 items, and we came up with this on the trip back. And so this will be a permanent fixture on our agendas now. And I think, as Mr. Ward said, it's very important. A lot of people need to recognize, and that's how you build community spirit, esprit de corps among your personnel, and also to recognize students. So, Mr. Ward, do you have anything else?
One other thing, I brought my staff with me. I know they're just excited to talk a little bit, but we have to have them talk about some things that we're doing to get ready for the first day of school. There is a lot of purchases we put in front of you, and I'd like for you to, I want to give you a cheat sheet. So if you go to this blue sheet here, this will help me guide my conversation with you all, because Sam can tell you sometimes I get a little off task, and it's just because I have an issue with that. And I want to stay very succinct to you all and understand how we're doing and what we're doing throughout the first month of school, because there's a lot going on with COVID and it's changed the way we do business. But as you look at your purple or your blue sheet, you can see that our virtual school, that would be option 3, we went from 178 students that were interested in that to 56 students. You have 11 K5 and 45 612. The reason why the number went down was Ken Lester did a great job of looking at what do they have in their household that can make sure that those kids can get an education, because we're going to have a live teacher. And if I'm a live teacher and your connectivity isn't great, or if you have 3 kids at home, it's really going to pull down on 1 kid can pull it down, 2 really is pulling it, 3 really pulls, and now you're getting a problem with a disruption for your education. And so after talking to some parents, they felt better that they probably should go with option 2, which is remote still. But the virtual, that is going to be with our third party. So to let you all know, if you drop down to purchases for virtual school, we're going with the company Proximity. That's out of the ESC or the cooperative. And for that first semester, it's going to cost around $65,000 to educate all those kids. And that's all through the CARES Act money. Not any local money is being used for that. That's all CARES Act. I will have Ken talk about some things in this next section, but before I do, because it's all about technology, he'll answer some questions for you. But on the issue with proximity and virtual school, do you all have any questions on that one at this point in time?
That's the first semester, and they once they buy into that, pay for it, they're in it for the semester. They can't go to another option.
Right, but once the semester's over, if they like it, then let's say all 56 like it, then it's going to be another purchase of around $65,000, and that'll be CARES Act money. Okay. So you're looking at around $120,000, give or take, because we were at around $356,000 at one point in time with 178, give or take. So this has really been with my team And our principals, we have really worked hard to contact parents to say, I want you to understand. We weren't trying to talk them out of it. We were talking them into educate, because this whole virtual thing is really scaring a lot of people. It's different. And it's different to us. We just want people to know we're working through this headache with them and understanding what broadband that you have at home to make sure this will work. So did that answer your question?
Yes. I think it's important to make note here for the public, those who are listening. Mr. Warble and his team made every effort to offer 3 options for educating children in Sumter County. And the first one is, if kids' parents want to come to school in its traditional setting, like they've always done, he's made allowances for that. If parents want this virtual school option by a third-party teacher, not one of our teachers, he's made provision for that. In addition, he has a second option, which is for, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 through 12. If you want to do remote learning,
It's a blended model.
blended with that. So what I see in this plan, members, is great care has been given to try to satisfy the needs and the feelings that different parents have regarding safety and education of kids in this time. So that's what I want to make.
Nice, I appreciate that. And when on Sundays, like I said the other night, I know I was long in my PSA, but I think people need to understand what all we're trying to do to help out with open house all next week, and then the following week start school. But every Sunday at 3 o'clock, I'm going to do an announcement to say how we are with green, yellow. I hope we're not going below that, but it is what it is. We want to have school, and we want to make sure our kids have all those extracurricular activities. So that has been addressed. Unless there's any more questions, I'm just going to keep moving. I wanted you guys to have a cheat sheet, because I know if I was a board member and you throw this all in front of me, please, someone tell me what we're doing. So when you go back to your constituencies, you can tell them, here's how we're spending money. All the money on the right is basically not local money being spent. If you go to the purchases of technology, I'm going to yield to Ken, but what I want you all to see is where sources are coming from. We have CARES Act, you have Step 7B, which we get that money from Step 7A, B each year from the State Department. We have title money, that's federal dollars. CARES Act is that new federal dollars. So if you look at your sources, no county money is being spent except for what is allotted to us through the CARES Act or federal title money. If you draw your attention down to U.S. Cellular 8 hotspots, this is where I got to give Ken a lot of credit. He drove around with the U.S. Cellular. There's like 5 or 6 different companies, and he's vetted them all, and all of them have great ideas, but I can give you a brand new Corvette out there, but if you can't get in it with a key, or I say it's going to cost X amount to maintain it, you might not like that free Corvette, and it's just going to look pretty sitting out there in your yard. I mean, that's what we're at. But Ken had to vet through this, and if you look at that, we're going to create 8 hotspots, and I'm going to go ahead and yield to him so he can run through that. But please ask him as many questions as possible, because if you guys understand this when this is done, then we're going to use you for our next PSA, because it is very difficult to navigate through this. A lot of people think this is just real simple. This is if the weather's good and everything's fine. But, you know, we got a hurricane that's going to come through, and the winds, that's going to disrupt a lot of things, guys. And that's just, that could happen, let alone snow and whatever else we can get. But if it's a beautiful day, we might have a chance to have perfect hot spots. But Ken, I know you have some stuff you'd like to pull up and go through there. While Ken's doing that, I will do a little bit of interference for you all. Ken has been working really hard. I'm going to put him on the spot. Do you have our website to kind of show them to? There it is. He has cleaned up what I did with you guys when I interviewed. Remember how I did my website? I did a smart move. I gave it to him to let him make it better. So one thing I've learned in life is you find people who can make things better. But he has really cleaned it up. And we wanted everybody to understand the school system is the climate and culture of our community. So as he scrolls up, you can see on the right-hand side, I just love that picture of not the water. Where's the kids? Yeah, back in the day, look at them there in the black and white picture with Hinton on it. To me, that kind of stuff is cool. So we want to add to that. We want to get our kids involved to maybe help clean up the website too with their ideas, because we need the kids to have ownership in this as well and give us their thought process on this as they move forward.
Did anyone know that Hinton High was the first band in West Virginia to ever be invited to the national band competition?
What year was that?
1941.
Well, not that.
Who's going to correct them on this one?
Actually, I pulled the photograph out of the frame, and in it is written all about it and every band member that's in it.
It was band rep.
We
Right
go out there
there's
and pull it out.
The picture's right there in the window back there if you want to look at the back side where Ken got his information.
So, pretty cool. So, just, I'm not going to go over this as much as I did with the principals. And I do want to say that the principals contacting every one of their students and talking to them about what really's detailed with option 1, 2, and 3. Every one of these principals, every kid's been contacted, and that's just, it's not happening in other counties. Because anyway, I'm like, but we looked at all these companies and we vetted different issues, how it could be used, how the signal was, whether or not we were on a wait list, whether or not they returned our call, what the coverage was in the area, everything about overage charges, whether or not they filtered the internet. But nevertheless, we have a map here. Blue is the governor's Kids Connect box. So you'll see they're adding connections in Pipestem, Bluestone State Park, as well as the library and some other places here. Summers County Schools is in green. And the stars are our targeted locations for our Summers County School Bobcat Connect. So the State did Kids Connect, we're doing Bobcat Connect. And
We haven't trademarked it yet, but we're going with it.
so the stars are targeted areas where we actually went out and did speed tests with US Cellular. US Cellular brought their antenna out that they would use. It boosts the signal, so my cell phone would have no bars, and with their antenna they had mounted on their car, they had 4 bars, because obviously getting it away from the interference, getting it up higher, getting some amplification on it. And it also is the same antenna broadcasts the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and it'll be about 150 feet. It's not a lot, but it'll take care of a small parking area. And these are some of the areas we've targeted. You got any questions about any targeted areas? You've talked to me about Wi-Fi, Jumping Branch. You talked about getting that Corvette. That Corvette, we not wanted to go places we went. Because there's a crossover road between Streeter and Ellison that the US Cellular person wasn't amused. but we went down in Ellison and we found some connection down there. There's a church down there. If anyone's listening, if you're affiliated with that church, I need to get a hold of them. But I've already reached out to some fire chiefs, Vandals in Green Sulphur Springs. Vandals Store is interested in helping us do this. Pitt Springs Country Roads Market, they're interested in us doing this. I've talked to the Sandstone Fire Department chief. I've talked to the Pipestem Fire Department chief. They all sound very supportive. So I got more people to contact, but we went out and surveyed all of these places, and it may not be the fastest internet, but it's going to be faster than nothing. It's in a lot of these places, that's exactly what they have, especially for Ballengee, Ellison, and some of those other places.
So these are proposed hotspot sites, which when you choose a company, there will be antenna there, whether it's a fire station or for a store, and it would be a spot which students in that area could come to, access the internet, they don't have it at home,
Download what they want.
and download what they want so that they can take their device, which all students will have, and they can work and do their education from home if we're doing remote learning.
And I gotta tell you right now, I know a lot of option 3 people want to talk about this, but it's just, I mean, I'm not saying they can't do it, but who would want to sit in a parking lot for a scheduled set of classes 4 days a week? I don't see that as viable. This really is for that option 1 and 2 group that want to get that content, go home, whether they're on their AD or A day or B day, work at home, get their homework done, and then go back and then upload it. They have to do any kind of research for anything. They can go to that parking lot, do a little bit of research, and head on out.
Ken, can you answer if those are filtered hotspots?
Yeah, well, okay, so US Cellular will filter it. And in addition, we have an application that we push out to all the Chromebooks that are in certain groups that will filter it called Relay. That was on the news the other night. So Relay, and Monroe County uses Relay as well. So that filters their internet with our filter even when they're not on our network.
We talked about thumb drives at one time. Are we going to use any of those or not?
Was that a question or statement? What are you saying now? Sorry. You say fund drives?
Thumb drive.
Oh, thumb drives. That's why I had to, I'm like, I didn't get it. That's me. Long day.
I think in certain situations,
I'll let the tech guy take care of that.
I think in certain situations, thumb drives could help. I don't think we'd want to buy multiples for all the students, but I think in a way, if you have to get into that packet situation where somebody really can't get the internet, they could download information. Thumb drives in the Chromebooks is not the most friendly thing. It will work, but it's not like sticking it in your Windows device.
I see 2 greater spots. Is that because it's just not an option in those places, or there's not a need in those places, or?
I would never say it's not a need. It's just when I look up in here, finding somewhere, is it Keeney Mountain?
Yeah.
US Cellular is really good up in here, but I looked at student population and where we had somewhere a parking lot that had power, because you got to have somewhere to plug this stuff in. I'm not saying there's no centralized area up here.
For that area that you're addressing, you have an option going with bandwidth store there at Green Sulphur. That is a very good location to handle much of that contiguous area.
Yeah, and he's very open to it.
Yes.
Yeah, he seemed like a really helpful person, and I really appreciated him talking with me. So I was on a handshaking trip, not really during COVID, but meet and greet as we were going out and taking all these samples. So I met a lot of people and started that conversation ahead of time. Any other questions about the map?
I have one about for the board because I want to know this. How many students will that serve with those hotspots? Or how many people will this leave?
Okay, so US Cellular says you can have a 50 to 100 in the parking lot on that. But really with the bandwidth that we're getting, we were seeing 20, 25 megs per second. You start dividing that out by the number, if I'm pulling my share and he's pulling his share, you really need 3. So if you put 3 megs per student into that, 21, it tells you, but are we really going to have more than 15 or 16? I don't think we'll have that many people sitting in a parking lot, but they say it will serve, the access point will serve hardware wise 50 to 100, but I don't think you'd want more than 7 to 15 with the speed that I was seeing.
You're not going to have them all at the same time anyway.
And how many feet out will that go? Approximately.
100 to 150 feet. If you're sitting in your car's electronic ignition system creates a tremendous amount of interference. That your car's antennas. They started moving them toward the back of the car, if you notice. When you go to Green Bank, you're not allowed on the property of Green Bank unless you're driving a diesel because it doesn't have the same ignition system in it. Electronic ignition system. So if you're sitting there and you turn your car off, you're probably going to be better off than if you're sitting there with your air conditioning running. But it works. We tested it. I would have them start the test, and then I'd walk to the other end of the parking lot and I'd do a speed test. We spent a lot of time. And I met a lot of people and talked to them about this. And everybody so far has seemed open to it. The one thing that they've mentioned that they might like is some sort of hold harmless agreement that, you know, if something happens to a student there, that they're not going to be responsible. And I did mention that to Dave, and that would be something that we want to look into.
Sam probably has a policy for that, don't you?
Well, we have some safe harbors.
Right.
You're always worried about safe
You
harbors.
do. But that's the biggest thing for churches and for people who have a store. I can understand that. The third with the fire departments, they're not worried about it because there's not a whole lot, let's be honest. You're just sitting there.
And
But
everyone,
still,
Now, you might check with Brett, the insurance company,
yeah.
and see if they might cover
They
it.
probably, that's what my next option is, but I wanted to let the board be aware of all the stuff that we're trying to do to provide more internet access in our county.
another thing that I've been telling them after talking, at any point they say, this is disrupting my business, you know, for whatever reason. I said that you're not committing to this. We can pull it out, find another location. That you're not committing yourself to doing anything other than allowing us to plug it in and use your power for it. That's it.
So the stores would probably welcome that. People sit in your parking lot, you're gonna go buy something.
I'd go and get a code for sure.
So will you be able to monitor, say you had a hotspot vandal storing green sulfur? Would you be able to monitor to see how many of our students are using that spot and with what frequency?
Yeah, so the Chromebooks will give me some telemetry of location, but the US Cellular option also has a management piece on it that I can get telemetry from usage of the hotspots and all of that. So that'd be exactly right.
I was wondering if there was some way you could get a notification if there was an issue with the hotspot. So if a student had assignments he needed to
Yeah.
receive or turn in,
Somebody in the firehouse unplugged it.
right? But
Which is going to happen.
yeah, he or she could legitimately say to their teacher, I could not.
We can
We're
probably
gonna track
go back and find that to verify if that's what the issue is. Having an alert, I did not see that in the information that I had. So
This is the new my dog ate the homework. I mean,
this is our attempt to bring equity, I can't say it loud, make it equitable for people who don't have internet. This is our best effort. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be anywhere near perfect, but we're trying. And US Cellular did a lot of legwork with us on this. And I got to tell you, I got more. I had more. That's not it. So you asked about management of them. They have NetCloud that I'll be able to log into and see telemetry from those hotspots. That's in the proposal they have that Dave will get on his desk here. And this is the cost breakdown. And it all equaled up after you put the monthly charges. And we don't pay tax, but we still pay USAC fees. And that USAC fee, you see it on your cell phone bill, when I say something about E-rate, where we only pay 10% of our internet bill, that's that universal subscriber line charge on your cell phone bill. And it's based on our poverty rate. So we still end up with those fees, but it's about $19,000 on your blue sheet. $19,670. And if I was Mr. Angel, I know how he looks at dollars, cents. I'd be like, well, that's a lot of money to sink into hopefully a short-term issue. Well, it's not sunk cost. These come with cradles that are ready for school buses.
That's what I like.
So these devices can then go from being a hotspot to being a school bus that is now internet connected, and it is backwards compatible with Angel Track's system that Brian already has on his bus. So if we buy the Angel Track's component for the global positioning and the tracking information, we will not have to pay for the router and the internet service that Angel Track bundles with it. We will already have that paid out in that $19,000.
This is for what, the 19,000 pays for what period of time?
It pays for the single charge of $11,000, or $11,000 for the equipment. That doesn't get recharged. It's ours. You can't return it. It's ours, but it comes with everything. Everything you put in the bus. That was $2,500 per unit, and it's down to $1,300. And they will know.
They gave us a good guy discount.
Yeah.
You hear me?
That's for the equipment.
How many units?
So the service charge is $312
For 8 of them.
for 8 of them a month.
Each, for all of,
For the 8,
for the eight.
yes.
And all of this money, assuming this works well and it gets used, is coming from CARES Act, it's not local money.
Right.
But in the future, when COVID is finally eradicated, or just like influenza A and B, we have the option, we have the equipment now, we bought it, we can put it on our buses. So that could be a good mobile unit for our kids to get their work done while on a bus. Not that I'm suggesting that, but at the same time, it still could be a mobile hotspot for where a bus driver parks their bus near the populated areas of kids to give them that opportunity for internet access.
And I know Brian wants to start being able to track the buses on maps. Yeah.
Travel
Yeah.
tracker.
And this will give connectivity. And also, he's talking about being able to track when the student exits the bus. This will give that internet connection where you know if the student has left the bus or not, because the student will have a dongle or a key fob or whatever is in their book bag, and that'll check them off the bus. So that's what they can do through Travel Tracker. This will put the backbone on the bus for 8 of them. Now, I know you have 26 bus runs, so it's not going to get us all the way there, but it's not it's that equipment charge, the 15,000 of that 19 is not wasted money. We can use it.
How much drainage will that be on the batteries? I know Mr. Ward's gonna be interested in that.
Yeah,
That's a great question. We're not 100% on that. That's the devil in the detail.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
all right, it wouldn't be any more drained than that DVR that the camera system is running.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the near as moving parts as that DVR does, in my opinion. But I'm just off the cuff.
See lines.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys have any questions other than, we went right to the bottom because I knew that was his big presentation. But do you guys have any questions on the other things that we're buying with that CARES Act or title money or step 7B? Because if you don't, I'll move on to the last section, and then I can be done with my presentation basically. But the last section, you have stuff that we want to buy for our kids to help supplement what the students are doing in the school system. I'll probably have Renee can speak to this because some of this is her title money, and then some of the stuff that we're purchasing, I can speak towards. The DK Enterprise is with transportation. We're trying to do an open PO because what we found out looking at past purchases, since we talked about 8,200 and violating that, we just thought we'd open up a purchase order with this company because we buy a little less than 20,000 a year. Isn't that about what Brian said? Yeah. So I just thought, why don't we just open a PO, an open purchase order, because then we're not coming to you all the time saying there's an emergency or we have to hurry up and fix a bus or we violate that policy 8200. It's just better to do an open PO with this company because that's who we buy the parts from. To help you guys out understand something, if you take $20,000, we get 90% of that reimbursement from the State Department because it comes out of the source of transportation. So look at that as a return on our investment.
Is it 90 or 95?
I thought it was 95.
Totally.
It's 95 and
Then you told me 95. I think it's 95.
it's,
But
I think you're right.
it is what it is.
It's still, you know, if you spend $1 and I give you 90 cents back or 95, you're gonna be like, this is a good return on our investment. But it's based again on what Ken said earlier, it's based on the need of our area. So 95% of 20,000, we're gonna get that back because it's parts for the buses, and buses always need to be worked on because that's how it works. They'll sell you a bus and it won't seem like a lot of money, but they don't tell you it's going to have to be serviced a lot because our buses put a lot of miles across the county and they go to a lot of field trips and a lot of sporting events and they need service all the time. The next part is Newsella, or it's News ELA for language arts. This is a program that's going to address the two things that I said we got to attack: math and language arts. The math, what we have already purchased and you've used in the past before I got here, was that program called Alex. And that program does a diagnostic on where that kid is, and then it gives them information to see them grow and show growth there. So if the state or federal government gives us a waiver again this year on state tests or federal tests, we need to still have accountability. And you guys need to know what's going on. Are we growing? So we're using Alex to help out supplement for the math. Newsella is a program based with language arts, and they give kids and parents and teachers daily information that's out there. So for example, the hurricane would be out there right now, and the Republican convention. I'm just giving you what's going on now. Whatever happens 6 months from now, it's new information because it's news and it's dealt with the language arts, where if I'm a lower level with reading, let's say I'm a 9th grade student, but I'm at a Lexile that says I'm a 6th grade reader, then we start them there, just like the math program, and we try to ratchet that up. What's nice about it is it gives teachers lesson plans, it gives teachers questions, it gives help to the teachers to find out, how do I find if this is truth or fiction? Is this opinion or fact? And it helps get kids' main ideas. And it's not all language arts. Every teacher is a reading teacher. It goes into the sciences, the maths, the arts. It goes into every discipline you can think about, and it ties it all through reading and writing. The nice thing about this too is Newsella has a new feature to it. It's brand new this year, and it deals with the social emotional part of the kids. I don't know what that all looks like yet, but we will have professional development for our staff, and I'll learn a little bit more to give you guys more detail about it. But this Newsella will help us with the language arts piece, and the Alex will help us with the math. Because right now, a lot of our parents need to know that if my kid comes home 3 days out of 5, because you're getting them 2, what am I doing at home? And these are 2 programs that the kids could do at home. So this $24,408 is 2nd grade through 12th grade. So it goes all the way down to 2nd grade level. And then the Lexiles is how we can help those kids. So if I'm a boy and I don't like reading, but I sure like deer hunting or side-by-sides, I can, if I want to, go on it and search that stuff, and it'll give me all kinds of stuff to read, and then I can go in there and read that. What's nice about it is our teachers that can track how the kids are doing and what they're reading and what they're looking into, which is great, because if I'm a teacher and I find out you're interested in that, why not work with them on that and get them interested? Because like my mom said when I was reading Sports Illustrated, my grandpa said, that's all he's reading. My mom said, at least he's reading something. Okay, I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves. We got to get kids hooked into reading and the writing, because right now we lost 6 months, if you really are serious about this, of educating our kids. The Read Naturally and the Renaissance with the parentheses of freckles. Where's Renee? I'm gonna yield to you because you can speak more intelligently on that.
Can I ask a question on Newsella?
Oh yeah, please do.
Is Newsella by grade level alignment with West Virginia State Standards Curriculum CSO?
Yes.
It does have alignment,
Yeah, it's at 80% or higher,
80% or higher.
and that's what we have to gauge it by.
Okay.
And teachers can, what I like about teachers can manipulate what they put on there for, when I say manipulate, like they have questions stocked and ready to go. But what's nice as a teacher, I can interject what I want or take out, because there's some things you just don't need to ask questions about. You want to get to the meat and potatoes, then do it that day. What I also like about it is if I'm a sub and I come in there, because we need to train some of our subs on this, I can use this, because nothing's worse than being a sub and have no lesson plans. And it's a scary situation going in there with a group full of kids and you don't know what you're about to get into. These two programs, Alex and Newzella, are very engaging, and we have to get our kids engaged in reading, writing, and mathematics. Not that the other subjects aren't important, but guys, we're not tested too well in those two subjects, and that's what gets checked by the federal and state governments. We got to focus on those two first as we move forward.
So for fellow members, what that means is these two programs selected here, they dovetail extremely close with what the State Department says are the objectives of each course that we should be teaching. And so it's kind of hard to mess up with that.
Yes. Okay. Renee, I'll have you talk to these guys about.
Okay, just let me know if you can't hear me. Can
I
you
can
hear me?
hear you.
Okay. Read Naturally is a intervention program that the elementary schools requested. It's for grades 1 through 5, and our Title I teachers at each elementary school will be utilizing that program in person, face to face, and they also have a live digital version as well. Renaissance, the program is called Freckle. The middle school and high school requested ELA program that's centered and focused on grammar mechanics, and Freckle does that. So we're purchasing just the ELA portion for the middle school and high school. And then the elementary will get all four subjects. And the price there is $38,200, but I worked with the rep today, and the price is decreased by $14,000. The new price is $24,136.72.
Renee, if I'm a board member, how did you do that? Seriously, how did you do that?
I just told them we didn't have the funds.
I'm gonna have her negotiate next time. Great job.
Thank you very
That's
much.
very impressive.
That is impressive.
So
We'll
all of
let you talk to
those,
Neola when he gets ready to do our
See, I want to talk to my agent
We
here.
don't have the funds.
Oh, the higher up, maybe.
so if you look to the right of those that I just discussed, all of those are coming out of grants, some federal money, some state. Gear Up, we're utilizing some Gear Up money just for the 12th graders. I can only use that for a particular class. And the counselor tells me it's the 12th graders for this year for Gear Up. The CSI money that will be utilized is this year's money, the new grant. And then last on the list is state electrical supply. That is for our new electrical CTE class. Leonard Price worked with 3 different companies and got 3 different quotes, with State Electric coming in the lowest quote on those products. So that was $30,654.97, and that's coming out of the CTE electrical grant.
The Renaissance Freckle program, is that going to be used in conjunction with Newzella at the high school level?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
In conjunction.
Yes.
So they'll have 2 options there to work on ELA efficiency.
Yeah,
The
just
difference between the two that I could see, Newzella focuses more on reading for pleasure and increasing your read for understanding. And Freckle focuses more on those grammar mechanics that they're missing, those skills that they need for writing.
Okay.
plus Newzella goes into the other genres or
The
disciplines.
social studies.
Yeah,
other-
because I don't want the disciplines I think we're not focusing on them, but one is more grammar, which is Freckle. The other one is reading for comprehension level and vocabulary, and also understanding fact versus fiction versus opinions and people persuading you to think a certain way. So we're going to try it out. We don't know if it's going to be the best laid plan, but it'll give us something to start with this school year to see how we're doing. So we're going to go from there. Thanks, Renee, for getting that down. Really appreciate it. You guys have any other questions on the blue sheet? I have one more thing there.
$30,654.97. That was the startup money that the state gave us, correct?
That is correct. It's a good question. We're excited to have who we have in there.
Oh, yeah.
We're excited.
We're gonna start planning now, though, how we're gonna pay for it next year.
Yeah, we're doing that. Yes. One other thing with my report, and I'll be quick and we'll be done. I do want to thank. This is one of our employees that's worked pretty hard. I've been pushing him. Is I got to give Charlie credit. He has saved the money, not only $10,000, but he has saved the money in other places because he has taken on and accepted the challenge. We had to take our library media center at the high school because we're putting the middle school in there, and we have made 4 classrooms. But you can't do that unless you add doorways. So there was 3 glass panels on each side. He took doors that this is where hoarding's good with Charlie. He had doors, and he cut those out and put doors in. And Eric worked with. I'm losing the train of thought, Eric. Fire marshal, sorry. And the fire marshal is okay with everything now because he was not happy knowing that we were going to put 4 classrooms in there. But we had to ask him, what do we need to do to make this right? And once he told us, Charlie said he could do it. And I promised Charlie that he will get everybody off his back, and I will make sure that is the priority because we have to have that, guys, to split that room into 4s. Charlie and his way of doing business, he's pretty good, guys, and he saved us 10 grand. We did get close just to see, and I think Charlie was almost at a point where he just want to let us know we still need him. He sure did a great job, and I like Charlie. He just gets a little worked up because he cares, and there's nothing wrong with caring about what you do for a living. And you guys need to walk through that building to check out the new doors, and Charlie did a great job. I got to give Charlie a lot of credit. Since we're going to honor volunteers next month, we'll talk about all those people. But Charlie's one of those people who saved 10 grand, and that can go somewhere else now in the system, maybe towards next year's CTE program. But long story short, we're pretty proud of having Charlie on our team to get that done. I was giving him a hard time about hoarding and keeping all the stuff, and then it fit me because he showed off and let me know that. So I appreciate that because he's worth his weight in gold, man. He did a great job, and you guys need to go check out the schools. By tomorrow, they should all be ready to go for open houses with a few little nuances, but everybody's accepted the challenge. Floors are waxed. All the custodial staff has done a great job. I would like to also extend a huge thank you to Dr. Knott and all the cooks who continuously fed kids throughout the summer, and I don't know if Dr. Knott has this off the top of her head, but do you know about how many meals you served this summer?
We average 625 meal packs every week. That's 5 breakfasts, 5 lunches. We average about 600 a week.
That's impressive. So my 3 directors back there, I got to give them credit because I have pushed them, and they're probably all nodding their head like this behind my back. And I know Ken, I pushed him, but sometimes when you put pressure, it'll either make people dust or diamonds. I'm going for that second one. We're going to make diamonds out of people because we have to do it, guys. We don't get a second chance at this. But I want to be one of those counties they talk about that did do well with this. But we're trying to lay the plans. Eric just delivered. What'd you deliver? How much of that PPE? We got it all out. We're trying to push that out to everybody. Our custodians have taken all of it from Eric. We worked with our cooperative to keep the prices down. We have enough of that Purell stuff to go for a while. We got gallons and gallons of it. We have gloves. We have signage. We are trying to keep the place clean, and free of any kind of viruses or bacteria. Forget COVID, just anything. We are trying our best to make sure it happens, but we're only as good as the weakest link. And I hope people take this serious, that when their kids come home, that they do what the guidelines are, is put your clothes in the wash and go take a shower right away. Just get it done. That I'm trying to do that myself, because everybody likes to take a shower to get ready in the morning, but really, with all the stuff that's going on, we really need to follow the CDC guidelines and wear our masks, keep our hands clean, and try to stay socially distant. But you know what? A kid's going to come up and want to have a hug. It's going to happen. Okay, then that's great. We move on. I don't want people to get so worked up over the little minutia stuff that we forget why we're in the business. And those are going to happen. And we're just going to have to work with people. Talk with our bus drivers today. I think it went really well. They laughed at a few of my jokes, but they have to understand that it's okay. We're going to get through this. Because kids at bus stops, because I was a boy who goofed around, they're going to goof around, they're going to touch each other. But as soon as a bus comes near, guess what they're going to do? We were 6 feet apart. I'm not going to bust kids up over being a kid, but we have to understand that when you're on the bus and when you're at the school, we have to follow all the guidelines. If you go to the schools now, you'll see posters up. Eric's got all the signage to put on the floor. I think the biggest thing is our custodians didn't like those signs on the floor, because when you wax something, you want it to look nice, and you put this sticker on there. It's just comical, guys. At some point, you have to just go with it and smile, and we're going to get through this. But I want to thank you all for your support, and my directors with their support. And then Ken, I pushed them, and they haven't pushed back at me other than, what else you want, Dave? And I really appreciate that they keep saying, what can we do to help you? And I think the biggest thing is just keep doing what you're doing and persevering, because we are going to get through this. And we're going to smile, and we're going to suck it up. That's my presentation.
I want to make a little acknowledgement to Charlotte. 2 years ago, we had a problem with the gymnasium. And talked with a spring company, and it's $12,000 to look at it. Who knows where we've gone from there? I conferred with Charlie. Charlie ended up fixing the problem of the gym floor. There was no problem since. There were humps in it. He drilled holes in those humps, squirted adhesive in, and then screwed them down to the underlayment. No problems. So he saved us a minimum of $12,000 with about 30 minutes work, and probably $20 to materials. So that was another thing in addition to the total service. That type of expertise is very valuable. Okay, are you finished, Mr. Ward?
I'm done, guys. I
I
sucked
just
all
want
the
to
air.
make a note here, it took you an hour and 5 minutes.
Well,
Okay.
once you inform.
All right, that's communication.
Yes, it is.
If I recall, we're going to go now to item 4, approval of minutes. And we have minutes for July 23rd
And 30th.
23rd and July 30th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We had a special meeting, a regular meeting. Questions?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, second by Mr. Angel. This board accept the minutes for July 23rd, July 30th, as presented to this board by the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
I have this action, wait just a second.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that there was one change that I had requested. I called Marcia and I believe it was fixed. And it was just, I think, simply a typo, but it did look to me like it had been fixed. And it was, I believe, in the meeting for the 30th. And Mr. Brogan was listed as having made a motion hiring his wife, and he in fact did abstain. Mr. Duncan made the motion, and I do believe that that was taken care of.
Okay.
A little bit of housekeeping. Okay.
Gotcha. Sorry to jump the gun on you. When it comes to bills, we have Mr. Angel. When it comes to minutes, we have Mr. Farley. So rest assured that they are looked at closely. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote, the ayes have it, and the amendments were approved for the 23rd and 30th of July. That brings us down to item 5, public comment.
We didn't have anybody.
All right. The item 7, 8, 9, as we said, will be permanent agenda items going forward. 7 being student success stories. 8 being instructional initiatives that teachers are using to improve instruction and student achievement. And then 9, community volunteerism. And we want to recognize people. At this time, we don't have any of those. We'll be utilizing this starting next meeting. Correct?
Correct.
So we'll move down now to item 10, approval of bills.
You got one on there. Make a motion to approve the bills.
I think I do too. So.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel and seconded by Mr. McBride that the board approve the bills presented to us by the superintendent. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. Due to conflicts of interest of bills being paid. So let the minutes reflect passed by 3. Approve to pay the bills, and there were 2 abstentions, Mr. Chair and Mr. Brogan. Item 11, approve transfers and supplements. Do we have any?
You should have received them in your OneDrive that Marcia put on there, and these were put together by Kayla and Amanda, and then your others that you received, it probably says Mineral County at the top, and I think Mr.
Here's from Mineral County.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bust him up. He's doing a good job. He's doing it all from remote, which is saving us a ton of money. So I just wanted you all to know that if you saw Mineral, you did. Just cross it out, put Summers on there, but everything should be there in order. And he's really doing a good job of keeping track of our books right now. He and I are gonna have a conversation. I'd like to talk to him more about a few other items to get you guys up to date with some things, but right now, we're just trying to navigate through that at this point in time with Lauren getting back to life with a newborn, and everybody seems to be doing well. And we're working with Mr. Here up north, and he's doing a great job working remotely.
One of
And
my former treasurers.
I've heard he's been endorsed by a lot of people, and that's why we went with him. Yeah. So if that's the worst mistake he makes, we're doing great, guys.
I'll make a motion to approve transfers and stuff.
I'll second.
There is a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, second by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the transfers and supplements as presented by the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it. 5 votes in affirmative. Moving forward, we have no old business items. That's good to see. Item 13, new business. We have A, approved purchases over $5,000. Mr. Wardle.
You have that on your blue sheet that we talked about earlier. And we wanted you to see all the purchases we've done. And you've approved CARES Act money earlier, but now we're really showing you more detailed of how we're spending the CARES Act money. And then the rest is there for you to see as well.
When it comes to board minutes, will this be included, these approval items, they'll be placed in the minutes?
Yeah,
So
we
there'll
wanted
be a
everybody to
public record
see.
of it? Yes. Okay. So, does anyone see a problem in accepting a motion to approve these purchases as a group for over 5,000? Mr. Angel, any problem? Anyone else? You want a motion? The chair will entertain this.
I make a motion, we approve the purchases over $5,000 that have been presented to us for August the 27th.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion for Mr. Angel, seconded by Mr. McBride, that this board approve the purchase over 5,000 on August 27th, with these purchases to be entered into the minutes. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Let the minutes reflect that the ayes have it. 5 votes in the affirmative to approve the August 27th purchase over 5,000. And these will be entered into the minutes for this meeting. Okay. Item B, Approve student insurance for the 2020-2021 school term. Mr. Ward.
You guys do this every year.
This is the same company we've been.
Yeah, I was gonna say boilerplate. I don't know a better word to say, but yes, this is the same company we've been using every year.
Chair moves we approve student insurance for the 2020-2021 school term as presented to us by the superintendent.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that the board approve the student insurance as presented to us for the 2020-2021 school term. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining? The ayes have it. 5 votes in the affirmative to approve the insurance. Item B. 13C, approve agreement between Summers County School, Practical Nursing, and Appalachian Regional Healthcare.
We could just do all of those.
Okay? No objection, anybody? Okay, let me read these then, and then we will approve these as a group, or disapprove them, as the case may be. Item 13C was approved agreement between Summers County School of Practical Nursing and Appalachian Regional Healthcare. Item D, approved agreement between Summers County School of Practical Nursing and Summers Nursing and Rehabilitation Incorporated. 13E, approved agreement between Summers County School of Practical Nursing and Monroe County Board of Education. 13F, approved agreement between Summers County School of Practical Nursing and Monroe Health Center. 13G, approved agreement between Summers County School of Practical Nursing and Robert C. Byrd Clinic. 13H, approved revised. Okay, and that was a nursing, okay? Chair, we entertain a motion for those items C through G.
I'll make a motion that we approve those agenda items C through G for 13 new business.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Farley. This board approved new business items 13C through G that were previously read. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining. The ayes have it, 5 votes. Items 13C through G have been approved. That brings us to new business 13H, approved revised pre-K 2020 21 school calendar.
The handout you have, and Dr. Knott puts this together if you have any questions for her, but it's in accordance with policy 2525. And you can see the dates there. I don't know if you have any specific questions or if you want to add anything to it, Dr. Knott.
You had already approved it and then our calendar changed, so we had to revise the pre-K calendar.
I make a motion, we approve the revised pre-K calendar for the 2020-2021 school year.
I second.
Motion on the floor, Mrs. Farley, seconded by Mr. McBride. This board approved the revised pre-K 2020-2021 school calendar. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. The ayes carry with 5 votes to approve 13H, approve the revised pre-K 2021 school calendar. Okay, now we have come to item 14, personnel items. Mr. Warble, I think that since it's personnel, we have personnel issues here. Chair would move that the board at this time go into executive session, subject to code 6-9A-4, paragraph 2, personnel. That is a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by the chair, second by Mr. Angel. That the board go into executive session on personnel issue. Subject 6-9A-4. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. The ayes carry with 5 votes. The board will go into executive session. We will go to the other end of the building. We'll be back shortly.
I heard it. Angel got the second.
say to members, this executive session will be limited.
Thanks for coming down to help.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
We deal with.
You don't like it.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's right.
Okay, quiet down, kids.
Yeah, that was a good report. That's.
Thank you.
If there is such a thing.
This year's gonna be so different.
So many what ifs.
I need a pen.
No.
I was out and I didn't get a
No, she
pen.
didn't. She got 3.
I was out, I think when you visited. Somebody gave me a
Maybe
highlight,
another one?
but I didn't get a pen.
Look at all these extra bus drivers go through them like crazy.
Appreciate that.
Wait till you use this pen. Miss Jones had 3 of them.
I did more.
Thanks, sir. You're welcome.
If you order, anybody wants any.
The highlighters,
Yeah.
we're gonna use those bus drugs too.
You don't get to keep it. You can't catch it.
I caught it. It didn't hit the ground. Wasn't a problem.
Sure.
Like that.
I'll try to catch. Come on, see, it's not confidence. I just I can see the.
That's good, yes. I'll have a good evening.
You too. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you. Did we last see Peter was down here working?
Yeah, he was down here last year as well.
I'm very fortunate I have 2 good treasures. He was one of them. Jim Welton, another.
What now?
Mineral? All I ask is
You missed out.
keep me in the red and or keep me in the black and out of press. Other than that, all yours. Thank you.
Yes.
Would you have those stashed?
I forgot I had it at my desk.
Sister used to hide all her good in the piano bench.
I don't know what
And you
tomorrow
better
will be.
not get them, but she
I guess Matthew's back to WU.
He's back, Jacob's back. He's in Huntington, not Marshall.
Is he the one working for,
The same guys that do
You're good.
The time is 8:19. The chair calls this meeting back to order. The board has just returned from executive session on personnel items and issues. Item 14 is personnel. And I am going to read by section. We're going to go through all of these. And then is there, I guess it would be appropriate to ask this. Is there any, after having all members look at them, please, anything that you'd like to be pulled out, considered separately?
Coach pulled out seven.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Okay. Good. Anybody else need anything pulled out to deal with it separately? Everybody okay with dealing with these all together? Yes, Mr. Lynn's recommendation, okay. We have superintendent recommendations on personnel items. We have Kimberly Rhodes as taking employment in another county, so that was one. Personnel item recommendation from the superintendent to rescind that. We have, that's a big list, Mr. Blow.
Well, school's about to start.
Yeah, well, okay. All right. Superintendent also recommends. Can you read that first one for me, Mr. Wardle?
The Lourdes Castro?
Lourdes Castro, and that is for substitute.
Yes.
Sandy Muncy, substitute. Tina Suttle, substitute, pre-K through adult. Donald Paddington, homebound teacher. Pamela Mounts, homebound teacher. Rose Richmond, homebound teacher. Marty Mann, homebound teacher. Wendy Bailey, homebound teacher. Emily Vance, Talcott, multi-category. I apologize, I had eye surgery. My eyes.
That's a TIR.
TIR,
Yep.
okay, I can see it.
That's all right.
I apologize, I'm sorry. Wendy Basham, TIR, temporary, third grade, area. Hazel Toller, ACE mentor. David Hutchison, Sumter County High School coordinator and instructor, LPN program. Superintendent recommends the following. Joel McGraw, transportation. Connie Richmond. Cook 1, Brenda Allen. Half-time Cook 1. Substitute service personnel, superintendent recommends. Christian Aliff, bus operator. Josiah Cox, bus operator. Superintendent recommends Kimberly Ward, 1 half-time. Cook 1, Gail Meadows, 1 half-time. Cook 1, Nathan Smith, virtual facilitator, Sumter County High School. Andy Smith, virtual facilitator, Summers Middle. Christy Schaefer, virtual facilitator, elementaries. Superintendent recommends coaches. Kelsey Lively, volleyball assistant coach. Melissa Clay, volleyball assistant coach. Superintendent recommends amending coaching contracts. Chris Vickers, football. Dave Smith, football. Jonathan Smith football, Jason Keith football.
Just to explain that one real quick, we had a resignation of J.W. Ham, and he was getting paid around $1,000. So what we did was adjusted that 1,000 and not rehire anybody for that position, but spread that out between the current coaches, just to understand why that was that way.
And that's because that total amount of money had been approved for football coaching
Yes.
staff. Okay.
Mhm.
And it had been divided, and so now it's, I understand. Okay. Resignation, retirement. Superintendent recommends the following: Charles Chuck Richmond, substitute bus operator; Rita Campbell, aide, bus monitor; Kathy Shank, substitute teacher; Allison Ball, substitute teacher; Joe Rhodes, bus operator; Justin Pugh, teacher; J.W. Ham, assistant football coach; Tracy Grimmett, substitute custodian. We have read all of the superintendent recommendations for both hires, resignations, for all of these positions. Chair would.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendations on the listings that are read and they be entered into the minutes.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, seconded by Mrs. Farley. The question being, that this board consider for approving Superintendent Wargle's recommendations on all of the personnel items that have been read, and that these items be entered into the minutes as record. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it. 5 votes to accept the superintendent's recommendation for all the personnel issues for that we read previously, and that all items will be placed in the minutes. I'll bring this to item 15, approve in and out of county request. We have PJ to Summers County from Fayette County, JK to Greenbrier County. It's a moot point that can go, state supports it.
I'll make a motion to approve the in-and-out county requests.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the in and out of county requests. PJ Summers from Fayette, JK to Greenbrier County. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? The ayes have it. 5 votes. Moving forward to item 16, superintendent's report.
I already did that.
COVID-19 facility. You've already done that.
We did that earlier.
Did that earlier. Item 17, discussion of next agenda. Policies, Bowles Rice. I'm assuming, well, based on our discussion, that means that at the next meeting, there'll be an agenda item on there, and Bowles Rice will make a presentation.
Yes.
Their pitch for doing our policy manual. Okay.
I didn't want to put them on the same night. That'd be too awkward.
Yeah. And at this point, we have 2 people vying for that contract.
And maybe more if I can find them, but not everybody does this, guys. I mean,
Okay, that'll be an item on the next agenda. And that next meeting will be, is September 10th, is that right?
I think you're right. Let me see.
Yes,
Yes,
6 p.m.
6 p.m. on September.
Does anybody else have any other items they would like to see on the September 10th agenda? Okay, I will mention that we have some personnel issues that may require, Mr. Ward and I will discuss this tomorrow, may require because of the necessity for school starting and the need for posting jobs, may require a special meeting. So we'll discuss that tomorrow in time so that we can do a posting of that. We would note that we only had 1 meeting for the month of August. And as you can see, when you have one meeting a month, it takes a long time. Okay, at this point, Ms. Farley, you are on.
I make a motion we adjourn. The time is now 8:29.
So noted, we are adjourned.